Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello and welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. This is Gary Wilson, your host. Glad to have you back again. We got a great guest today, Dustin Heiner, all the way from beautiful Arizona. And we have a few things in common there. We're talking about the fun things to do there. But before we get into the podcast, just a reminder, if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all your favorite channels. And always when you listen to a podcast, it really helps to leave a review. It's amazing how much that helps people. So it's all free, of course. You don't pay for anything. It's just good listening to good content. By the way, one announcement. If you haven't yet done so, we now have these, what we call investor agents that we train all over the country, 25 states and growing. And remember, we're all investors. These are agents that we personally train to work with us, to identify, analyze, and help negotiate on properties, often on market. So definitely a critical member of your team. You can go to realestatewithgarywilson.com. Click on members area. You go in there. If you're already a member, you know what to do. Go to the left and log in and get all the goodies. If you're not a member, go to the right. And guess what? You can also get in. I think they give you 30 days for free. And guys, treat it like it's Christmas. There's multiple books you can download, the entire books, 300 some odd recordings, webinars, podcasts. I mean, just an abundance of information, tools like calculators and spreadsheets. And more importantly, you can go to the community site and select one of those investor agents in your area. So in any case, without further ado, Dustin, welcome aboard. I really appreciate you taking your time to do this. I know you're busy. I know how lucky we are. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and let's jump right in. Would you mind sharing a little something about yourself to let people get to know you a little bit, and then we can jump into some meat and potatoes?
Yeah, Gary. Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. I love the name of the show as well. So my brand, I basically coach people how to invest in real estate. It's master passive income, but I get all the time people are saying, is it massive passive income? So anyways, I love the name. I think you're doing awesome. Now, I invest in real estate, and after 30 plus properties, I was 37 years old and I realized, man, why am I working anymore? I could quit. And so, Gary, I do have to tell you one quick story of how I really made a decision and got over that hurdle to say, yes, now I'm going to be an investor. I'm going to put everything in to become a full-fledged investor. So I have always been entrepreneurial growing up. I had a paper route, like 13 years old, riding a bike and banging the garage doors with your newspapers. I had a graphic and website design company, skateboard manufacturing business, a convenience store, and a pizzeria, and lots of other businesses. And then I bought one rental property, and I saw how amazing passive income was. But I was still having all these other businesses. And then at the same time, I was like, I really want to get to real estate, but I didn't really jump into it fully because I had other businesses. And I was also working a job. Now, when I say job, I call it a JOB because you're living just over broke, because your boss is not paying you enough to actually continue living really, really well. So here's what happened to me. I'm going to tell you this quick story that got me over that hurdle. So my wife and I, we have 4 kids. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my kids in the video in the background. When my wife, and I'm working for the county government in California, and it's a regular desk job, just doing IT work. When my wife had our 4th child, she went in labor, had baby, and then I went on paternity leave. Paternity leave is where the dad stays home with the mom for about a week or so to bond with the baby, help the mommy change the diapers and stuff. And so I get back from work from paternity leave. And that same week I get back on a Friday at about 3:30 in the afternoon. I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. His secretary calls me and says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? I say, sure. And I hang up the phone. And then I pause for a second, like, why would they be calling me to the office? This is where I haven't been back long enough to have anything good or bad happen. And then as I'm sitting there, I remembered about 2 or so months prior, there was some rumors or some rumblings that there might not be enough money for the department and there might be layoffs. I thought to myself, no, I have so much seniority. I've been here for 10, 15 years. I shook it off. And I said, that's not me. So I get up and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, this hallway is not very long, but every single step that I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer. And it feels like my feet are literally lead bricks because I can barely move them because the weight on everything from my entire life, from my 4 kids to my wife and family and everything, thinking that I might actually get laid off. So I make my way step by step through this hallway, and I turn the corner to my boss's office, and his door is closed. And the secretary looks at me and says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And so I go and I sit down, and she's looking at me she's a very sweet lady, consoling me with her eyes, kind of sheepishly. She kind of grins at me because she knows everything that's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. And so I sit down in that chair. And as I'm sitting in that chair, I started recounting, oh my goodness, is this the time that I'm actually going to get laid off? And if I get laid off, how am I going to provide for my family, put a roof over our heads, put food on the table? And then what does that make me as a father? Does that make me a failure as a father? Does it make me failure as a husband? Failure as a man providing for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the weight of everything is just getting and crushing me down. Then the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a lady, a coworker of mine. She has a piece of paper in her hand. She is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you could tell her world has 100% been rocked. As she passes by me, my boss brings me into his office, and I get laid off. And remember, this is the county government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. So if it happened to me, it could happen to just about everybody. I take that layoff notice. I go back to my desk, and I realize two things right then and there, Gary. I realized, number one, I need to get another job. Like, I need to get a way to pay for the food and my mortgage and all that sort of stuff. So I was really, really blessed. Praise the Lord. I got another job in the same county at a different department. Didn't even get laid off. Just a transfer. It worked out so well. Really, really blessed there. Then the second thing that I realized was that I need to make sure I never, ever let this happen to me again. Never give anybody the ability to rip out the rug from under my family so that I can't pay for food for my family. So right then and there, I sat there and I realized, okay, all these other businesses were good, but I can't have to keep working them. The best one was investing in rental properties. And so what I did, I decided right then and there was that my value was no longer in my job, because whenever anybody would ask me, Dustin, what do you do? I would say, well, I work for the county government. I do IT work. But now I said, no longer will I ever say that, because what they're asking me and what they're asking you when they ask that is, what's your value that you put on yourself? Well, my value comes from my God, from my family, from myself. And I tell everybody now, even though I only have one property, I am an investor. It may so happen that almost 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my side job. I am a full-time investor. And I'll round out this story to share with you that everybody listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you need to realize that your value is so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And the reason why you know this is because they're paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much that takes money out of their pocket. That's why you're living just over broke. Now, to finish out the story, if you remember that hallway that I walked, the hallway got longer. It was a worse walk. It was a short hallway, but it took forever. The last walk that I ever took from my job, I walked in my new boss's office. Great job and everything. I gave him a 2 weeks notice. I said, boss, I'm done. I'm going to be done. I'm not going to be working here anymore. He says, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I have real estate. I literally don't do a thing. I don't work 30 minutes a day. I don't work 30 minutes a week. I only work 30 minutes, basically maybe a month, just by looking at the statements and then putting them away. So the last walk that I took, it was a 1.5 mile walk to my car after the last day of work, because I didn't want to pay for parking. It was downtown, so I had to, didn't want to pay. So I walked. It felt like I was walking on clouds, Gary, because I looked back and I said, I will never need a job again, because I have real estate investing, and that's how I changed my life. And so honestly, that's my mission now, is to show everybody else that they can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, well, that's a great story, and I appreciate that. I know my just got started in the business world, and it was my first official paying job out of college, also in IT. And I worked for a government contractor in Norfolk, Virginia. We worked for the Navy as contractors, and the headquarters was up around the New Washington, D.C. They call them Beltway Bandits. This is back in the 80s, and a lot of them were getting in trouble for falsifying timekeeping and fraudulent billing, basically bilking the American people. So our contract was lost, and our office, 135 people, just gone like in an instant. I was like, whoa, what? I just bought a house too. Fortunately, I got another job at a bank, and the rest they say is history. And then later on, I was the guy having to deliver the bad news for the corporation. And that's what I did. I said, I'm out of here. And it was right before Christmas. We had to let go of a lot of people. And I knew the number. Our numbers were good. It's just they were just doing cost cutting. And the following summer, this has been almost 20 years now, I actually retired. and haven't looked back since. I mean, I would do whatever I had to do to feed my family, of course, but same thing. I walked out of there and never felt so good in my life. I already had some investment properties, and I was able to live off of that. And rest they say is history. But I tell you what, let's do this. Can you share a little bit about like what it is you do? Maybe even a case study, an example of a student you've worked with, just to give people a better idea of what it is that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because as I've been doing my business, I've always been a business person. Like, I love business. And then I approached real estate investing as a businessman, because I was like, well, it's real estate investing, but I love business and I know business is going to help. So give you a couple case studies. So first and foremost, I started investing when I lived in California. And it was in 2006 when I first started investing. And I bought in Ohio because I knew California, I could not, in 2006, prices were skyrocketing. And so I could not make passive income because that's all I invest for. Appreciation is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But I'm literally going to give these properties to my kids. So I don't care if it's going to appreciate because I know it will eventually. I don't invest for appreciation. I invest for cash flow. So I bought in Ohio when I lived in California. Now, I'm going to tell you how I did it, but don't do this. I'll quickly run through it. I did it the wrong way. So what I did is I flew to Ohio, found a property manager, said, oh, you've got a pulse. You say you're a property manager, you're probably good. Found a realtor, didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I bought a house and I put them together and I said, okay, we have a property. It turns out this was the wrong way, obviously. I didn't build the business, which is something you'll hear me say over and over again. We build the business first. And what happened for me, because I didn't do that, my property manager started stealing from me within like 6 months. Started stealing from me, making phantom expenses, just receipts that are like, this doesn't make sense. They were stealing from me. So I had to fire them quickly and get another property manager there as fast as I could. Now, what I do is I invest in single family homes, that residential, so 4 units and below. But what we want, if we're going to get just a single family home, we want to invest in properties that make us a minimum of $250 or more in passive income. And this is how I was able to scale my business so I can quit my job. Because remember, we build the business first and then we buy the property. So if you make $250 a month from one property, that's the minimum. That's $3,000 a month. That's a great amount of income once a year every year without actually even working. This is passive. 10 properties, $2,500 a month, $30,000 a year. 20 properties is $5,000 a month. $60,000 a year. And so what I did was I kept buying property after property. That first property in Ohio, I cashed all that money out, that as much as I could, equity, bought another house, cashed that out, bought another house, and then kept recycling that money over and over again. And I'll give you one more little tiny case study. So I have lots of students. I've coached hundreds and hundreds of students how to do this business model, investing all over the country, anywhere, no matter where you live. And one student started working with me in December of 2019. So 3 months before the coronavirus and everything locked down and everything, 3 months before, he started investing in December 2019. From that point, a lot of people might say, oh, hey, it's the world's ending, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do this. He didn't say that. He said, I'm going to keep pushing forward. In 18 months from that point, December 2019, he's bought 11 duplexes. He has 22 doors now. He's making $6,000, maybe $7,000 a month in passive income. And what we do is we build the business first. So Gary, I'll quickly run through what building the business looks like. This is the case study I'm going to show you. If you build the business first, you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt that experts in the area, or like your realtors that are investor realtors like you that you coach, they know they're the experts. Zillow's not the expert. Redfin's not the expert. No, the people that live there are the experts. So what we're going to do is build the business first. Actually, you probably have some questions, but I'll definitely talk about building the business first. So I want to let you ask any questions that you might have out of everything I just shared.
So I'm just thinking in terms of the listener. So when you say you cash out, I mean, I've probably done 30 different techniques over the years. And I know one of the things I did is I would purchase with cash, then, of course, improve the value of the property and raise the rents, then go back out and finally get its own first mortgage on the property, pay back and replenish the cash. Later on, we made more of a system out of it. We used a commercial line of credit that basically allowed us to extract the equity from all of our properties. So a lot of people say, well, you can't do that. Commercial lenders want to be in first position. I said, well, I agree they do. but you got to ask them the right questions the right way. And so we basically did what the REITs were doing, just on our scale of 10 units, 20 units, things like that, and eventually got bigger. But okay, sorry, you kind of get into some of the for lack of better terms, get into the weeds a little bit about the mechanics of how you actually funded the property, how did you get your money out, and then maybe we can do another case study.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did was I bought, my wife and I got married, we didn't have much money. In fact, I didn't have any money. I was not taught to save. I was taught not to go into debt, which was good, but I wasn't taught to save. My wife was taught to save. She brought over like $15,000, and I took every bit of that and I bought our first property. And with that, I started seeing income coming in because it was passive income because I was making money from the rents. Then I did the cash out refinanced the entire house, pulled all the cash back out because it had more equity as a little bit of time had gone by, fixed it up, pulled all my cash out that I personally spent and extra to then buy the next property. Remember, this is in 2006 as well. And like you, I've done so many different ways to get financing. Like mortgage is just one way. There's literally dozens and dozens of ways. I've even used signature loans. I've used credit cards, and that's an advanced strategy using a credit card. But it's possible as long as you know that the property you're going to buy is going to make you money to, number one, pay off whatever loan you're getting. And on top of that, make you money in passive income. And so what I do is I look at all these different ways. Let's say I'll quickly go, portfolio loan, bundle loan, signature loan, credit card, mortgage, home equity line of credit, cash out, refinance, private money, hard money, all these different things. And there's more. All these different ways are basically tools that I've used and all my students use in order to buy a property. So a property, we have, let's say it's whatever dollar amount, $100,000, just random number. And trust me, there are properties for sale for $100,000 and less. Just because you live on the coast doesn't mean that's not true. But let's say you're going to buy a house for $100,000. And what you do is you figure out which tool can I fit into this business, this problem that I have of buying the property. It could be a combination of hard money and private money. It could be a combination of your money. But I think, Gary, you're 100% right. Any investor should get to the point, or they should try to get to the point, where they are buying properties with cash. Now, it doesn't have to be their own cash, hard money, private money, whatever it might be. But with that cash, you can buy it faster, buy it cheaper. Sellers love you because you don't have any contingencies, all that sort of stuff. With that, then you refinance, pull that cash out, pay off the home. Let's say it's a private money or a hard money. You pay that off, or you recycle it back. I've recycled my money over and over again. That's how I got to be 30 plus properties. And so that's what I do is I basically figure out all the different ways to finance properties and then figure out which one fits that business well.
Yeah, I appreciate you explaining that. There's what's amazing is the industry keeps evolving. There's even stuff today we're using that didn't even exist when I started 30 years ago. Oh, yeah. So I'm constantly learning, reading, studying, going to conferences, and I love doing the podcast because I get to meet guys like you, and you always learn something, and you can never learn too much in this business. And you're right. I am empathetic towards people when they're first starting out. I know when I first started out, I couldn't buy a whole house for cash. Now, back then, my first house was $63,000. Now that's like, gee, I wish I could get more of those. But, now they're $630,000. But in any case, I'm okay with people being in highly leveraging in the beginning because sometimes it's just what you need to do to get started. But definitely work towards the goal of being on a cash basis, guys. It opens up so many more doors for you. You walk in with a position of strength. You get better deals. It just gets easier. But now, as far as where you're looking, there's a website I'll share with you. It's called How Money Moves. Just like that, HOW, How Money Moves. And it's using IRS tax filings to track the migration of money, not necessarily people. Wow. The two are often one and the same. So we obviously know Ohio is a great place. Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania, not so much, but Western Pennsylvania, yes. Obviously, Georgia, Utah, Texas. But anything you're using yourself to know or determine where you want to go target? Because you're like me, I don't just focus on one area now. I've been looking in all the states. But what are some of your favorite techniques there for knowing where to go?
Oh, that's great. So let me answer this by saying, There's this statement in real estate that you'll hear every realtor say, location, location, location. I'm an investor. I think that's crap. Personally, I'm sorry for being so crass, but that's not good for me as an investor, because the reason why they say that is because they want appreciation. You're buying a house. If you're buying a home that you're going to live in, totally understandable. Location, location, location. But for me as an investor, everybody is going to need a house to live in. Location is perfect for anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter which, maybe not for you, maybe not for somebody else, but there will be somebody that's going to be able to buy that one property that you are actually going to invest in. Let's say, like where I got started was in Ohio. Like I said, obviously went from California, started investing. No matter what the market went up, down, or sideways, I made money because I invest in passive income. And in buying in Ohio, the prices were much lower, so I was able to make good passive income. But here's what I do, Gary. The reason why I know that areas are good is because, of course, if money's flowing in, that's fantastic. If there's low crime, that's fantastic. If businesses are being built there, that's fantastic. But at the same time, there are also good areas that don't have all these great, things that are going on, but are still really good areas to invest. And let me give you an example of how I know this. So what we do in this business for Master Passive Income, I teach all my students how to build the business first. Now, what you're going to hear a lot of people, they teach how to invest in real estate. They're going to say, okay, what you do is you find a property, then you run the numbers, make sure you're going to make a little bit of money, $100, $50, whatever, in passive income. Then you find somebody to fix it up, rehab it. Then you find somebody to manage the property. Then you find somebody to lease it out as a tenant. In my opinion, that's literally just about backwards. What we do here at Master Passive Income is we build the business first. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So if you're going to start a convenience store, everybody knows what a convenience store is, a gas station where there's candy bars and sodas and everything. So a convenience store, if you're going to start one of those yourself, you're not going to lease a property, a location, open the doors and put a box of candy bars in there. No, you wouldn't do that. In fact, you go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do instead is you would build the business first. You get the gondolas. Those are the shelving units that the candy bars and things go on. Countertops, cold storage, fountain machines, bank accounts, cash registers, employees. You'll do all of that before you buy any inventory to put into your business. Same thing with real estate. Anywhere we invest, we build the business first so that we know we have experts in there helping us to make sure we're buying the right inventory. So we build the business, and this is how we can scale the business to 30, 40, 50 plus properties. We have the business, and in that business, we buy inventory. Every piece of property is another piece of inventory that goes into your business. And what happens is your business runs itself. Like I said, I only work maybe 30 minutes a month at best looking at the statements. Everything else, I put it away because I have the business run itself. So I give the business rules, processes, and systems so that everybody else knows what to do. And in the morning, I wake up, drink my coffee, look at my email to see who sent me which properties I might want to buy. If I like it, I'll buy it. So that's what we talk about, building business first. And what happens is we're going to find the right contractors, roofers, realtors, plumbers, wholesalers, inspectors, everybody, electricians, everybody in your business who are the experts. Like I said, Zillow is not the expert. Redfin, any database, even LexisNexis, those are not the experts. The people living on the ground, the realtors who know this is a good investment, those are the ones that are absolutely going to help you in your business. Because the last thing you want to do, because Gary, I've bought many properties off people who have done this. They do what the other people teach. Find a property, run the numbers, then. Basically, they don't do it the right way. I buy properties off of them all the time because they're fed up. They're like, man, I can't find anybody to manage this property. I'm losing money on it. I can't find anybody to really rent it out really well. And sadly, they're like, Dustin, just take this property. I'm so tired of this property because I'm not going to be a landlord ever again. I'm like, thank you. I'll go ahead and take the property. So what happens is we build the business first. We run through the entire business model with our property managers and everything before we buy the property. So we take the property, go to the realtor, or if they bring it to us, what are your thoughts? If you're an investor realtor, what are your thoughts? How much can we rent it for? What type of clientele can we get? How much is it going to cost to rehab? What are my expenses going to look like? Ask all those questions. Same thing. Property manager, exact same thing. Because what you don't want to do is buy a house and then hope to find a property manager after you've already spent thousands and thousands of dollars and then find out, oh my goodness, this is in a bad area. No property manager is going to manage it. Then you have a bad property that's losing you money. You go to your property manager and say, property manager, I want you to tell me if this is a good property. How much can I rent it for? How much is it going to fix up? And so also, Gary, I know we talked about this, but I want to give everybody a free real estate investing course, literally showing you exactly this entire business model that I have. If you go to masterpassiveincome masterpassiveincome.com/free course/free course. I'll really get that to you. You can even text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777. Rental to 33777. I'll literally give it to you. I just want you to get started.
Yeah. So it's 33777.
Yep. Then the word rental, RENTAL.
That's nice and easy. We like easy. So
yeah, exactly.
I really appreciate all the detail. Some more questions that are coming to mind here. So we have, people listening in different professions, and of course, all of them are either investing or interested in investing, and some are just pure investors like us. Different walks of life, different areas of the country, even different countries. But one of the big things right now people are wondering is the timing of it all. It looks like we're at the top of this market. They hear about 1031 exchange maybe going away over 500,000, capital gains going from 15 to 39%, and now the government wants to stick their fingers in our IRAs. And people are like, well, what do we do? And I'm like, well, real estate, it's still there. I mean, we still invest up and down. We really don't care. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I know we're using trust and life insurance as part of our model now, and some other alternatives to traditional rentals like long-term housing, things like that, and short-term housing. But kind of as far as timing goes, do you alter your strategy between, like you started right before the last recession, 2006, then the recession hit, then you came through the biggest boom time in the history of the world practically. So what kind of lessons can you share there as far as timing goes,
I love that question, especially the lessons that I've learned, because definitely as we go through it, I try to learn as much as I can every single step of every single any property that I buy, anything from the markets. And so I agree. It seems like the market is getting really crazy, too crazy. In fact, in Arizona, where I live, Phoenix, in the last year, it's gone up 20%. Think of that. In 1 year, 20% increase in value. That's just nuts. So I absolutely think there's going to be a correction. I don't know if there's going to be a crash. Very well could be, but there will be a correction. There's always a correction. Because I remember back in 2006 and 2007, people were telling me, you better buy now or you'll never be able to buy. They're saying the exact same thing now. Like literally today, they're saying the exact same thing, which I'm like, well, I'm a student of history as best I can. I remember this happening back then. I'm going to be a little patient and wait until there's actually something happening, and then I'm going to gobble up the properties. But I would say, even though I'm going to be patient, there are deals out there. Back, like you said, the boom in 2009 and 2010, I was gobbling up. I didn't have enough money to buy enough properties. I was just buying as many as I could. If I had more money, I'd buy even more. So what I also did, though, back in 2006, the properties that I owned back then, I still own. Now they're double or triple what I bought them for. Now the value went down when I bought it because of the crash. And then now it's double, triple from when I bought it. And the biggest thing is I make passive income every single month, no matter if the market goes up, down, or sideways, because I fix those rents in there. Now those rents from 2006, they're literally double what I first were renting them for. So I make even more money. So for me, here's to get all round up to your question is right now is still a fantastic time to buy properties. It's harder to find good deals though, but there are deals out there. I'll give you an example of where. So my students and we're investing like the Midwest, down in the Southeast, like in the Carolinas and Florida. There's still great properties at much lower prices, like $120,000, even $80,000, $60,000. There's still good properties. Now, little depressed areas, you have to know how to actually manage those properties, C class properties and C minus properties. D, I'd probably stay away from. But those properties are still good properties. People have to live everywhere. That's just what it comes down to. And so for me, right now, it's harder to find deals, but the deals are still out there. Like I said, one of my students, among like hundreds of students that I coach, literally in 1 year, 18 months, basically all of 2020, he grew his business. Now he has 22 units, basically 11 duplexes, because he's finding the properties. And so that's also something I love showing you how to do with find the right areas of the country to invest, find the right properties, get people like investor realtors, like you have, Gary. Wholesalers. I love wholesalers. They're fantastic. They make me a lot of money. Other investors, your other property managers, they can give you good deals. Even title companies. Hey, this property, if you got good in with the title company, hey, this property went out of escrow. They fell through. You might be able to jump on it. Great. That's information. So there's so many deals out there. You just need to know which ones to buy so that you make money in passive income every single month.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something interesting, and anybody can go look at this. If you look at the history of the market going back to the 1960s, if you had bought at the peak of the prior market and you go through one complete cycle, not the next trough, but a trough, a peak, the next trough, you would have still made money even if you bought at the top of the peak of the prior the cycle and the trough of the subsequent cycle. You still would make money in real estate. It's just an amazing phenomenon. And people don't realize these things. They just think I got to buy at the bottom, sell at the top, and it's not really true. And it doesn't work that way, anyways.
You're absolutely right. But here's also another thing to add to that, because you're 100% right. So whether the market went down in that trough, I still made money. When it went up, I still make money. But here's the big thing. See, if you're watching this, you have my kids in my background. I have 4 kids and my wife. Love my wife. I love quitting my job. I love that I quit my job so I can be home with my wife.
Too. You gotta feed all those people. Huh? I just kidding. Go ahead.
Exactly. And so because I have my kids, I'm looking at these properties. I'm like, why would I ever sell these? These are doubling in rents. The value's going up, which I could just cash out that money, do a cash out refinance, tax-free loan, which is fantastic, to buy the next property, keep scaling it. But this is generational wealth. I'm literally going to give, number one, the knowledge so that they can do it themselves. But number two, the physical asset. I can literally give this to them so they can be making money and passive income every single month. So I look at appreciations like, you know what? If my value goes down in half, which it did back in 2010, oh, well, I'm going to buy more properties because now all those houses literally are triple what I bought them for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I just know in the past, I've been through this cycle coming up here. We don't know. It could turn tomorrow, next month. Nobody knows. All we know is it's going to happen. We just can't tell you when. But I don't get nervous about it anymore. It'll be my 5th complete cycle. And I learned the last time what I did worked really well. We did quite well in that market, in that recession. We were just prepared for it. We had the right model at the right time. It wasn't like I planned for it. I didn't plan for a recession. I just had a model that allowed me to operate whether the market was up or down. And on the brokerage side, we learn if we work with other investors, we're all sort of community type, cooperative, collaborative competition, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's the way to go about it. Don't feel like you got to crush the next guy to make a good deal. No, you can work together. And somebody's in any recession. Here's what really gets people freaked out is the properties actually don't go away. They just change hands. The wealth goes from one hand to the next. And if you understand the principle of money moving, how money moves, I promise you'll be able to participate as long as you understand what strategies work in what markets. So that's why timing is not like you do or you don't. It's just how do you do it, and that's where all the strategies come in. So I know we're getting close to our magic half hour here, but it's hard to stop because this is such a good one. So if you could, Dustin, if you wouldn't, I've got people text the word rental to 33777. We call that getting the goods, so you can get the goods. But I think you mentioned, is there a website too? People just want to do research and read about you and contact you directly. How can they best do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have my website, masterpassiveincome.com. And on top of that, I have my own podcast called Master Passive Income, YouTube channel, putting out videos 2 or 3 times a week. And so it's literally just me teaching this content because, Gary, what's really interesting, and I know you know this, I can teach anybody how to invest in real estate, but getting them over that hurdle to realize that they can do it, that's very hard. I can't do that. They have to do that on their own. And so for me, having my podcast, Master Passive Income, where I'm just literally giving all this stuff out, my website, articles, my YouTube videos, literally all free, because I want you to realize that you can do this. And all you need to do is just make your mind up to that mindset shift to say, I am now an investor, no matter how much my boss is paying. I was getting paid $75,000 a year, but I'm like, I'm losing money here. I better quit so I could go do my own thing because I make so much more money on my own. So check me out there, YouTube, podcasting, everywhere else.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. And for everybody listening, take Dustin up on his offer. That's pretty generous. Text the word rental to 33777. And you got to like Dustin because he's got the phrase, massive passive right in there. So, we're thinking along the same lines here. So
absolutely.
We're calling it being a brother from another mother, or And the female, of course, that's sister for another mister, but we're brothers here. So, but everybody take advantage of that. And also, please remember, go to realestateWithGaryWilson.com too. Go in there and get free goodies there on the members area. But more importantly, connect yourself with investor agents. Dustin mentioned that in the podcast here. Having investor agents work with you, it makes a huge difference. They're not just trying to pull down their pretty carpet and the nice chandeliers. They actually understand what you and I need to know when it comes to investing in real estate. And they find those properties. So invaluable. And you don't even have to pay for it because they get paid out of their commission. How about that for a bonus,
Beautiful.
Yep. But in any case, Dustin, thank you again for doing this. I appreciate you. I know how lucky we are to have you on. And I appreciate you doing this. We'll we'll have you back again, by the way, too. And
awesome. I love it, Gary.
Yeah, you're welcome. And for you and everybody, God bless you and your families. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.